Hey up everybody, it's Johnny P, the Painted Coach. I thought I would again share some of my thoughts with you guys. We're into week 2 of January. Quite a tough week sometimes, especially if we started to set ourselves some aims and objectives or some goals or something new to do. And this really relates to the last video I made last week around how we can have these wobbles when we set ourselves something challenging or something new, and we can have these wobbles. And what basically can happen is our mind, our thinking mind, can start to come into play. And what happens is it presents some questions when we're about to do something that maybe is out of our control, or it maybe it's something that's uncomfortable or challenging or new to us. And it starts to present some questions. And I'll take my example. So a few days ago, I was up early, so that was my first challenge. I got up really early with the intention to do some training on the park. I actually got into my car, drove to the park, and I was sitting in my car in the car park, and it was chucking it down with rain. It was cold, it was windy, typical Sheffield weather at the moment. And that's where my thinking mind presented me the question, why are you doing this, John? Why are you out here? Why don't you go and get a coffee? You trained yesterday. Why don't you give yourself a rest? And that's what happens. Sometimes the mind starts to present questions to us. Why am I doing this? And a lot of it is the why bit. And if you don't have an answer to it, it can sometimes win the day, and it can convince us to do the things that we had great intentions to do, but then it drives us towards the comfort and the convenience side. And again, this is natural and normal. This is what the mind's designed to do, is keep us out of danger and keep us comfortable. So it likes to present us all these questions. And if you think about it, if we don't have the answers to these questions, it's going to win the day more times than it should do. So I started to think about this and go, well, actually, what did I do then in that moment when I was sitting in my car and my thinking mind started to present these questions to me? And what I do is I go back to a few phrases, this self-talk that I use, and these words that I use to override that question, to give it an answer. So when my mind started to say, why are you doing this, John? Why don't you go and have a coffee? Why don't you go and have a rest? I just basically say, not this time. So I talk to the mind, my thinking mind. So I separate and I go, not this time, I'm going to train. So I use that dialogue in my head and then I move. I got out the car and I started training. I use the let's go again. Those are very powerful words in my mind, is let's go again. It's a go again mentality of just keep going and keep going and keep going, just non-stop. There's no end to it. There's no finish line to it. We just keep going and going. So again, let's go again at this. And then I just got up and I started moving, got out the car. I'm better than this is some powerful words that I use sometimes. When my mind is giving me these stories and these questions, I override it and say, I hear what you're saying, but I'm better than this. And again, then I move and make an action towards what I was going to do. And the last one is I talk to the mind like it's a separate entity sometimes. It's not what I do now. So if my mind is telling me, why don't you go and get a coffee? Why don't you go and get rest? Why don't you stay in bed? Why don't you give it a miss today? I tell it it's not what I do now. It's not what I do now. And then again, I move. So again, in the moment, it's in the moments that's going to be the challenge, where we have these wobbles. When we're in the moment where we don't feel like it, this dialogue in our head, this mind, can start to give us lots of different stories or present us questions. And it's how we answer those questions that's going to be critical to the next steps that we make. So start to think about, what are the questions that your mind uses when it wants you to give up, when it wants you to take the easy path. And you'll hear it, you'll hear those thoughts, you'll see those images that it presents to you, and it'll come into a question or it'll come into some kind of dialogue in your head. What are the words that you can use as a reply to those questions, to those thoughts? And they're your words, and they've got to be powerful. So what you then say is, you just say those self-talk words inside your head, and then you move. You take action. Don't stay there and have a massive dialogue. Sometimes I do have a conversation with myself and I'm back and forth. But in the end, what I realised is I have to move physically towards something. So on that day, I just basically, not this time, it's a go again. And I just opened the car door and I got out and I just got moving. And it just cut off that conversation that I was having with myself. It's a powerful technique where you can have this self-dialogue, but then you move. So whatever it is you're going towards, then move towards it. Or is something sometimes is moving away from it. So I use this when I'm about to eat some, say, junk food. I'm just about to eat it, and then I can talk to myself and go, not this day, not this time, and then I'll step away from what I was about to eat, or I'll walk away from it, and it'll just break that thought pattern. And again, from the last video I made last Monday, we all have the capacity to choose well, but sometimes it's hard because our mind presents us these really strong questions and we don't have the answers to them. So find the answers, be it in just small words, the small links of words. So not this day, go at it again, I'm better than this, are the ones that I use quite a lot of the time, and they seem to work. Sometimes they don't, let's be honest. Sometimes I do get caught up into the mind and it convinces me to do something else, but that's where I use the start again mentality and that go again the next day. Okay, so I slipped today, so I'll go again tomorrow. And look, I hope that helps. Have a great week this week. Again, step by step we go ahead, we get ahead of ourselves, just work out what those little steps are going to be. Work out what the mind might say to you, those why questions, or that dialogue in its head that starts to talk to you, starts to take you in a different direction towards that comfort and safety which it's designed to do. But that might not be the person that you want to be by staying there, because there will be a consequence to it. They will. It accumulates over time, those consequences, and it's very subtle in its approach, but over time you might look up in 6 months, in a year, and there might be a consequence. It might be an unforeseen consequence now, but there will be a consequence to it. So be very careful of that. When our mind likes to talk us into this convenience and comfort, actually that might not be the person that you want to be, and you might want to face these challenges and have that attitude of challenge. And yes, it might be a little bit uncomfortable, it might be a bit new to me, but that's the person that I want to be now, because it's really important, it's something that I value. Look, have a great week. I'll speak to you all next week at some time.